Boom. The violent fluctuations of spiritual energy ravaged the world like a storm, and the immense pressure of this spiritual force caused many strong individuals present to slightly change their expressions. They cast serious gazes towards the young man descending from the sky. The figure in the sky was none other than Muin, who had hurriedly arrived from the Shanghai continent. As he descended, he landed on a mountain peak and then looked at the water droplets on Yoyo's beautiful face. A wave of anger surged in his heart. Since Muin had met Yoyo, she had always shown a strong side. Her stubborn and persistent nature left a deep impression on him. But now, this woman, who was once so strong in his memory, was reduced to tears. One could only imagine the immense pressure and injustice she had endured. Patriarch Tian Huang, are you all right? After landing, Muin turned to Patriarch Tian Huang, reaching out to help Elder Lu, whose body was stiff, and cupped his hands in apology. I'm sorry for being late. Tian Huang and Elder Lu stared at Muin in disbelief. They clearly could not believe that he had really come. This boy actually dared to offend the Phoenix clan for Yoyo? It's not late, not late. Patriarch Tian Huang waved his hands repeatedly, then said bitterly, but our Yoyo clan couldn't do anything, which is why we sent Elder Tian K to notify you. I hope you don't mind. Muin smiled at the words, his expression serious as he said, Patriarch Tian Huang, don't mention it. Yoyo has always taken care of me. If it weren't for her, I might have already perished. Now that she is in trouble, no matter where I am, I must return to help her. Patriarch Tian Huang's expression was complex. He felt somewhat ashamed yet also comforted. Ashamed because of their narrow-mindedness, but comforted because Yoyo had made such a close and understanding friend. After exchanging a few words with Patriarch Tian Huang, Muin waited for Yoyo's emotions to calm. He then walked up to her, seeing her red eyes. With a light smile, he teased, I never thought you'd cry. Yoyo wiped the tears from her face and gave him a light glare with her beautiful eyes. She then extended a long leg and kicked Muin on the back of his foot. You dare make fun of me. However, she then sighed and said softly, you really shouldn't have come. Although Muin had become much stronger now, the Phoenix clan was still not to be underestimated. Muin shook his head, gazing seriously into Yoyo's eyes. Who was it that protected me when I left the Northern Spirit Realm? Who took me into the Great Thousand Worlds? It was you. Back then, you didn't disdain my weakness. Today, how could I abandon you? Back then, as a frail and weak young man, his strength was limited. The only reason he managed to survive through countless dangers was because Yoyo secretly protected him. Without her, Muin would never have reached his current level. Hearing this, Yoyo's nose tingled with emotion, and tears welled up in her eyes once more. But in order to maintain her composure, she forcefully suppressed them. Who are you? Why are you interfering in the matters between my avian divine beast clan? Just as they were speaking, a cold and noble voice suddenly rang out. It was none other than the Phoenix Queen, Fang Jing. Her calm, unwavering gaze locked onto Muin as she spoke indifferently. Muin looked up at her, his voice flat as he said, I am Muin. I came at the invitation of the Yoyo clan to protect Yoyo. His words caused murmurs to spread through the crowd. Many gazes focused on him, some scrutinizing. It was clear that they were not unfamiliar with the name of this young man, who had recently risen to fame in the Great Thousand Worlds. Although the Phoenix Queen had expected this answer, her brow furrowed slightly. If an ordinary human Heavenly Supreme had come to intervene, he would have been forced out immediately. But Muin was different. His mother was the Grand Elder of the Futu Ancient clan. He was also close to the Flame Emperor and Martial Ancestor, and even held the title of the Demon-Slaying King of the Great Thousand Palace. These identities gave Muin a certain deterrence, and the Phoenix Queen could not treat him like an ordinary human. This made things tricky for the Phoenix Queen. Behind Muin stood a Saint-grade Heavenly Supreme, and she could not use her own Saint-grade power to suppress him. Doing so might provoke the Saint-grade Heavenly Supreme behind him, and that could lead to an earth-shattering confrontation. No need to worry, Father. Such trivial matters don't require your concern. As the Phoenix Queen hesitated on how to handle Muin, Huang Xuanji, standing behind her, smiled faintly. His narrow eyes, radiating golden light, locked onto Muin. He smiled and said, I've long heard of the prestige of Mu Manor's master in the Futu Ancient clan. But today, we are not in the Futu Ancient clan. Here, you won't be able to use the clan protection array. His words were calm, but they made everyone nod slightly in agreement. According to the information, Muin had been able to suppress many elders in the Futu Ancient clan, only by relying on the clan protection array. However, His own strength was only at the mid-spirit grade. Yet today, those who would enter the divine transformation pool were all peerless geniuses from the top divine beast clans, each one possessing terrifying combat power. It would be impossible for Muin to recreate the same imposing presence he had in the BTTH clan here. Huang Xuanji, the son of the Phoenix Queen, did not disappoint. With just a few words, he stripped Muin of all his past glory, causing his reputation to plummet. Muin smiled and nodded, replying, "The elders of the BTTH clan were troublesome, so I had to rely on the clan protection array. But today, for such a small matter, why would I need something so grand?" "Heh, Lord Mu is truly generous," Huang Xuanji chuckled, casually adding, "It seems you really consider us divine beast clans as nothing." His lips curled into a playful smile, but the words he spoke were full of venom, clearly intending to position Muin as an enemy of all the divine beast clans. As Huang Xuanji's voice fell, the peerless geniuses from various divine beast clans, who had been observing from the surrounding mountain peaks, all exchanged glances, their eyes flashing with different emotions: curiosity, indifference, sarcasm, and disdain. "Heh, a mere mid-spirit grade human heavenly supreme dares to make such bold claims here. Doesn't he fear the wind will blow his tongue away?" A gloomy laugh rang out, laced with contempt. Countless gazes turned in that direction, and they saw a grim-faced man standing with his hands clasped behind his back on a nearby mountaintop. His lips were sharp as blades, giving him a cruel, cold look. Behind him, a bright light radiated, and faintly, there seemed to be a giant bird with golden feathers, resembling a phoenix or rock, shimmering with spiritual energy. That is Fang Jing, the peerless genius of the Golden Phoenix Rock Clan. The Golden Phoenix Rock Clan shares a bloodline with the Phoenix Clan and is the Phoenix Clan's closest ally, said Patriarch Tian Huang with a somber expression, noticing the man had spoken. "A mere late spirit grade, nothing to worry about," Muin smiled, completely ignoring Fang Jing's provocation and not even glancing in his direction. To him, Fang Jing was nothing more than a clown trying to gain attention and curry favor with Huang Xuanji. "Heh, you're looking for death." Fang Jing sneered, but he didn't act immediately. Instead, he shot Muin a cold, murderous glance. "You needn't waste your time with such petty provocation. Not many are fools here. If you want to know how capable I am, just step up and measure," Muin replied calmly, still not acknowledging Fang Jing, his gaze now fixed on Huang Xuanji. Huang Xuanji's playful smile slowly faded, his eyes growing cold as he stared at Muin, each word deliberate. "This undying phoenix bloodline, I, Huang Xuanji, will claim it." Muin returned Huang Xuanji's gaze and slowly replied, "I've already said, you're not qualified for it." The world fell silent, the two of them locked in a tense standoff. It was like the sharp point of a needle against the sharp edge of a wheat blade. Many onlookers couldn't help but quietly marvel at the intensity of this clash. One was a peerless genius of the Phoenix Clan, and the other was a renowned talent in the Great Thousand Worlds. No one knew who would emerge victorious in their battle. Buzz. At that moment, as the two were on the verge of a confrontation, the Emerald Lake at the junction of the mountain ranges suddenly rippled. Streams of endless spiritual light erupted from the lake like a fountain, shooting skyward. Boom. In an instant, an indescribable spiritual pressure burst forth from the lake. Even Muin's eyes slightly narrowed, for he saw the spiritual light rising above the lake, forming numerous light shadows. These shadows resembled various divine beasts and flying creatures. Clearly, these light figures must have been the forms of past heavenly supremes who had meditated there. "This lake is no ordinary place," Muin muttered. Muin muttered to himself, though to the naked eye, the lake appeared to be only about 1,000 feet wide. His senses told him otherwise. The lake was boundless, endless, as if it were an entire world in itself. "The divine transformation pool is about to open. Everyone, prepare yourselves," said the Phoenix Queen, Huang Jing, her voice calm yet carrying across the area. Upon hearing this, the atmosphere around them instantly became tense. The elites from the supreme divine beast clans, their eyes now ablaze with fervor, were eager. Buzz. In the next moment, the Emerald Lake surged with waves, its calm shattered. It felt as though the seal on its surface had just been broken, and a wild, overwhelming spiritual light surged forth, shaking both the heavens and earth. "Enter." With Huang Jing's command, streams of light shot up from the mountaintops, then plunged down, accompanied by splashes as people dove into the Emerald Lake. As they entered the lake, their figures vanished in an instant, as if they had entered another world. These peerless geniuses entered alone, for according to the rules, only those beneath the heavenly supreme rank could bring a protector, and clearly, they didn't need one. At this moment, Yoyo took a deep breath, her beautiful eyes turning to Muin. Are you sure you don't regret it? Once we enter, a brutal battle is certain. Muin smiled and extended his hand. You've protected me for so many years, now it's time for me to protect you. A charming smile appeared on Yoyo's face, one that was incredibly seductive. She gently took Muin's hand in hers. The next moment, the two of them became two streaks of light, shooting out, and amidst countless gazes, with a splash, they plunged into the Emerald Lake. Splash! As they hit the water, Muin distinctly felt a violent fluctuation in the space around him. Then, a sensation similar to entering water enveloped him. He glanced around and realized that he and Yoyo were now in an expansive ocean, with no visible horizon or bottom, giving off an eerie and terrifying feeling. Their bodies emanated spiritual light, isolating them from the ocean's depths. Muin gazed at the emerald waters with a focused look, as he could sense a heavy pressure emanating from the water. If one concentrated, they would notice faint images of divine beasts hidden within every drop of water. This ocean water contains such powerful bloodline energy. Muin sighed. This so-called divine transformation pool was somewhat similar to the divine sea they encountered in the divine beast plains with the three beast venerables. However, the former was man-made, and since the heavenly supremes who came here to transcend did so willingly, the atmosphere here was relatively gentle. Assimilating the energy was much easier. In contrast, the divine sea in the divine beast plains was formed from the blood of heavenly supremes who died in battle, and thus contained a variety of different wills, making its bloodline power extremely violent. Ordinary people would never dare to absorb or refine it casually. Too bad you haven't reached the heavenly supreme rank yet. Otherwise, if you went into the divine sea of the three beast venerables to cultivate, it would be much stronger than here, Muin remarked. That divine sea, the three beast venerables had once given Muin a jade token, allowing him to enter again. But once used, the divine sea might disappear into the endless void. Though the divine sea is strong, it's also far too dangerous, and the final opportunity is more suited for you. Yoyo smiled and said without concern. Muin helplessly shook his head and didn't say much more. Scanning their surroundings, he asked, so what do we do now? In the divine transformation pool, because many of our predecessors transcended here, the bloodline power is extremely dense, eventually crystallizing into blood essence. For us divine beasts, this is an unparalleled tonic. If we can consume and refine it, it will refine and evolve our bloodlines, Yoyo said, her beautiful eyes glinting with a fiery intensity. She looked around and continued, the blood essence is so potent that it can manifest as a divine beast shadow, roaming within the divine transformation pool. If we can find it, we can capture it. But we need to hurry. While the divine transformation pool appears endless, each time blood essence forms, the supply is limited. The other elites from the supreme divine beast clans will undoubtedly rush to seize it at the fastest speed. Bloodline energy so vigorous. Muin pondered for a moment before gently closing his eyes, unleashing his spiritual energy perception. Despite the pervasive blood chi throughout the sea, the blood essence would be far more condensed. So, if he drew closer, he would certainly sense it. Yoyo, seeing Muin's detection, stood silently to the side, not making a sound, so as not to disturb him. Muin's probing lasted for a while before his eyes suddenly snapped open, staring in the northwest direction. Over there, there's a surge of powerful blood chi. Let's go. Yoyo's spirit lifted at his words, and the two shot forward, their figures carving deep water tracks through the Emerald Sea. Following the direction Muin had indicated, the two raced for several minutes, gradually slowing down as they approached their destination. Their eyes gleamed with curiosity as they looked ahead, where a massive golden divine eagle soared through the sky, emanating an overwhelming flood of blood chi. Muin's eyes gleamed with spiritual light, and he could clearly see that in the very center of the golden divine eagle's body, there was a blood-red, round spiritual orb. The blood chi contained within this orb was so intense that even he couldn't help but be slightly taken aback. This golden divine eagle, although it's formed from blood essence, its blood chi is so strong that it could rival a perfect Earth Supreme. Yoyo said with a bitter smile. This was also why people below the heavenly supreme rank needed to bring a protector when entering the divine transformation pool. Otherwise, even if she found the blood essence, she wouldn't be able to revert it to its original form and devour or refine it with her strength. Leave it to me. Muin smiled, then waved his sleeve. Vast spiritual energy surged outward, transforming into a massive hand that reached toward the golden divine eagle. Sensing the approach of the giant hand, the eagle, though lacking in intelligence, reacted instinctively and flapped its wings to escape. Boom. But as soon as its wings unfurled, the giant hand descended, mercilessly clutching it, and with a burst of force, the divine eagle exploded. Blood chi spread out, and Muin reached out, watching as a blood-colored light shot out from the remains, finally floating above his palm. It was a blood-red spiritual orb, about the size of a fist, radiating an intense blood chi that nearly seemed to reach the sky. Muin stared at the blood essence, feeling the powerful blood chi, and couldn't help but marvel. Then his expression shifted, as he felt a reaction from the true dragon and true phoenix spirits hidden within his body. At this moment, they emitted the sounds of a dragon's roar and a phoenix's cry. They exuded a fierce hunger, as if they could devour the blood essence in an instant. Sensing the changes within his true dragon and true phoenix spirits, Muin was somewhat surprised. Before reaching Heavenly Supreme, these two spirits had greatly enhanced his combat power. However, now that he had become a Heavenly Supreme, they had become somewhat obsolete. Though they only possessed the strength of Earth Supremes, summoning them had no real effect. Muin had tried many methods to evolve these two spirits into true forms, transforming them into a true dragon and true phoenix. Unfortunately, he had failed every time. It seems the divine transformation pool might offer an opportunity for my two spirits, Muin thought. If they could break through to Heavenly Supreme level, only then would they truly be able to show their power. These thoughts flashed through his mind before he suppressed them, then flicked his finger, sending the blood essence flying toward Yoyo. The main purpose of coming to the divine transformation pool this time was to help Yoyo fully complete her evolution. At least until Yoyo's goal was achieved, he wasn't planning to consider his own. Thanks. Yoyo didn't hesitate. She opened her mouth, and the blood essence transformed into a blood light, entering her body. The next moment, a tidal wave of blood erupted from within her. Blood veins appeared on her delicate skin, and within her body, a tremendous transformation was taking place. The powerful blood chi poured into her flesh, causing the phoenix bloodline hidden inside her to gradually grow stronger. This transformation lasted for about the time it takes to burn half a stick of incense. Finally, Yoyo opened her beautiful eyes, and a dark purple flame flickered within her gaze. Truly worthy of the divine transformation pool, Yoyo couldn't help but let out a sigh of admiration. In the past, despite her arduous cultivation, she had struggled to enhance the bloodline within her body. However, now, a single blood essence was enough for her to feel a distinct increase. The contrast between the two made her marvel at the situation. Muin also clearly sensed Yoyo's improvement, but he wasn't surprised. The cultivation of divine beasts was different from that of humans. Humans were born weak, but through hard training, their strength grew step by step. Divine beasts, on the other hand, were born strong, but their progress was exceedingly difficult. Yet, once they had the right opportunity, their growth was explosive. Continue, Muin said with a smile. The blood essences within the divine transformation pool were indeed rare and precious, but their quantity was limited, so they needed to make the most of the time and seize every opportunity. With those words, he swiftly shot forward, and Yoyo immediately followed him. In the following few hours, relying on Muin's perception, they encountered 7 giant beasts formed from blood essences. Each time, Muin casually slapped them back into their original form, turning them into pulsating blood essences that fell into Yoyo's body. Under the nourishment of these blood essences, Yoyo's aura surged steadily. Her internal blood chi became vast and mighty, even emitting an ominous shadow behind her that vaguely took the shape of a massive black egg. Muin understood that this was the manifestation of Yoyo's bloodline. Once that giant egg broke open, it would mark her true evolution into an ancient undying bird. Finally, I sensed the opportunity for evolution. Yoyo opened her bright eyes. At that moment, a trace of excitement appeared on her face. After all, she had been waiting for this day for so long. However, to seize this opportunity, I'll need a massive amount of bloodline chi. Muin continued to gaze intently into the distance to the left. Hearing Yoyo's words, he smiled slightly and said, I sense a big one. Earlier, when Yoyo was consuming the blood essences, Muin had scattered his perception. In the distance, he sensed an exceptionally powerful blood chi stronger than the combined essence of the previous ones. This blood essence was so potent, it might even rival a spirit-grade Heavenly Supreme. Let's go, Muin said impatiently and shot forward. Yoyo quickly followed. A few minutes later, Muin stopped, his eyes shining with a strange light as he looked ahead. Behind him, Yoyo's face revealed a hint of shock. Before them, a massive giant Muin, tens of thousands of meters long, slowly soared through the sky. Every time it flipped, it released a powerful shockwave, stirring up massive waves. This blood essence's blood chi is comparable to the initial stage of spirit grade, Muin exclaimed. Then, without hesitation, he made his move. A giant hand of spiritual power descended from the sky, blocking all retreat paths for the blood essence giant Muin. Though its blood chi rivaled a spirit grade heavenly supreme, its methods were weak, and it was no match for Muin. As expected, when Muin made his move, the giant beast was quickly captured. But just as the giant hand was about to seize the beast, a sudden change occurred. A golden feathered wing pierced through the void, like a divine blade, swooping down and slicing Muin's spiritual hand in half. The unexpected shift made a cold gleam flash in Muin's eyes. He slowly raised his head, his gaze turning icy as he looked into the distance. There, a figure clad in golden light stepped out of the water, standing with arms crossed, a mocking expression on his face. It was none other than Fang Jing, the member of the Golden Phoenix Rock Clan who had previously mocked Muin outside the Divine Transformation Pool. Fang Jing, arms crossed, eyes glinting with malice, shouted coldly, his voice echoing through the deep sea. "This blood essence giant Muin is mine. You have 10 seconds to leave." Outside the Divine Transformation Pool, when Huang Xuanji, Muin, Yoyo, and the others entered the Emerald Lake, Huang Jin waved his sleeve. Water columns erupted from the lake, forming transparent water mirrors in midair. Within the mirrors, figures flickered, showing the people who had ventured deep into the Divine Transformation Pool. Meanwhile, the powerful beings from various divine beast races, observing from outside the pool, kept glancing at the water mirrors. As they saw the blood spirit beasts within, they couldn't help but let out low exclamations of admiration, their voices filled with envy. The blood spirit beast is a great supplement for every divine beast. Under normal circumstances, it is virtually impossible to find, and only in the Divine Transformation Pool can one hope to obtain it. Hey! Suddenly, amidst their envy, a surprised exclamation broke out, and someone pointed to a transparent water mirror, exclaiming that Fang Jing has locked onto Muin. Upon hearing this, numerous gazes turned towards the water mirror, and indeed, they saw that Muin and Yoyo were facing off against Fang Jing of the Golden Phoenix Rock Clan within the mirror. Looks like Fang Jing is determined to use this opportunity to impress Huang Xuanji by going against Muin. One person chuckled to themselves as they watched the confrontation in the mirror. However, don't underestimate Muin. Although he's only at mid-spiritual grade, it's said that during his time with the Futu Ancient Clan, he defeated an elder at initial immortal grade with his own strength. You're underestimating Fang Jing too much. As a peerless genius of the Golden Phoenix Rock Clan, he has been rigorously training for over 200 years. Despite being at late spirit grade, as a supreme divine beast, his combat strength far surpasses that of a human. I recently heard that Fang Jing fought against a human heavenly supreme at initial immortal grade, and even with the latter's full effort, he couldn't gain the upper hand. Is that so? That's quite interesting. I've heard countless stories about Muin causing a stir in the Futu Ancient Clan. Today, I want to see if this guy really has what it takes. Haha, if he ends up losing to Fang Jing, that would be quite the joke. The elders of the Futu Ancient Clan would surely turn green with shame. Around the Divine Transformation Pool, many powerful beings from various divine beast races whispered to each other. Most were clearly leaning towards enjoying the spectacle, and naturally, they favored Fang Jing to win. That way, the beings of the Great Thousand Worlds could be aware that there exists a considerable gap between human geniuses and their supreme divine beast counterparts. 10 breaths have passed? Aren't you going to scram? While the focus outside the Divine Transformation Pool was on the water mirror, inside the pool, Fang Jing, arms crossed and eyes filled with fierce light, stared menacingly at Muin, grinning ominously. Fool. Muin glanced at him, simply dismissing him with those words before ignoring him entirely. He opened his mouth, and purple flames erupted, directly engulfing the blood essence giant Muin that was nearby and about to flee. As soon as the purple flames appeared, the surrounding seawater evaporated instantly, and an oppressive high temperature spread throughout the area, courting death. Seeing that Muin was ignoring him, and was instead attacking the blood essence giant Muin, Fang Jing's fury surged, his eyes blazing. He extended his hand, which transformed into a dazzling golden light, creating a claw that tore through space, lunging toward the blood essence giant Muin. Muin's gaze turned sharp, and with a flick of his finger, the purple flames that were initially aimed at the blood essence giant Muin abruptly turned around, morphing into a fierce flame dragon, entangling with Fang Jing's golden claw. Sizzle! The purple flames surged upward, rapidly dissolving the golden claw. In mere moments, it transformed into nothingness. What? Fang Jing's eyes widened in disbelief, clearly caught off guard by the overwhelming power of Muin's purple flames. Once the interfering golden claw was melted away, Muin waved his sleeve, and the purple flames once again enveloped the blood essence giant Muin, which began thrashing violently. After several breaths, it shrank into a blood essence the size of a human head and shot directly into Muin's hand. Muin casually tossed the essence, radiating a terrifying blood aura, to Yoyo, saying, "You should devour this first." Yoyo caught the blood essence, but cast a wary glance at Fang Jing. "Don't worry. He isn't qualified to snatch the blood essence from you," Muin replied with a faint smile. Hearing this, Yoyo felt relieved and settled down directly, cupping the blood essence between her palms as though embracing the sun and moon. As spiritual energy circulated, the blood essence transformed into a rich, almost tangible, blood energy that spiraled upward, penetrating Yoyo's body through her breath. As this overwhelming blood energy surged into her, a shadowy giant egg seemed to form behind Yoyo, with its shell darkening gradually. While Yoyo was absorbing the blood essence, Muin stood in front of her, staring without a flicker of emotion at the livid Fang Jing. "You were simply seeking death." Fang Jing's face turned ashen, his voice filled with murderous intent as he seethed with rage. He never expected Muin to completely disregard him, not only ignoring his threats but even going so far as to directly seize the blood essence and allowing the Nine Nether to refine and absorb it right before his eyes. "If you want to please your master, you'd better choose a more subtle approach. Don't come here and embarrass yourself," Muin said casually, giving him a sidelong glance. Haha. Fang Jing was completely enraged, bursting into maniacal laughter. The next moment, a vast golden light erupted from his body, and his form changed into a colossal golden giant bird tens of thousands of feet tall. This giant bird was incredibly mystical, its entire body covered in golden phoenix feathers, but its head was that of a carved sculpture, with massive eyes gleaming with golden light, cold and terrifying. This was Fang Jing's true form, the golden phoenix rock, possessing the bloodlines of both the Phoenix and Rock clans, known for its extreme ferocity. Clearly, Fang Jing had fully embraced the desire to kill and revealed his true form as soon as he struck. "Boy, today I'll tear your body into pieces and throw your flesh into the divine transformation pool." The massive golden phoenix rock screeched, its wings flapping to create a violent storm. "Just afraid you don't have the ability to do so," Muin sneered. Buzz. This time, however, the golden phoenix rock did not speak further but directly flapped its enormous wings. In an instant, a vast golden light exploded, and countless golden feathers shot out, enveloping a radius of tens of thousands of feet. Each golden feather was formed from extremely refined spiritual energy, sharp beyond comparison. Even a spiritual-grade, peerless sacred artifact would be torn apart by them. As the golden feathers closed in, a purple-gold radiance erupted from behind Muin. His massive immortal golden body appeared, emitting immortal light that formed a protective shield. Clang! 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 Countless golden feathers struck the purple-gold shield but failed to penetrate it, constantly being deflected away. Seeing that his attacks were in vain, Fang Jing immediately ceased the futile assault. His golden eyes flickered with cold light as he slowly raised his enormous golden feathered wings. The feathers were as hard as golden steel, strong enough to tear through the void. A sharp, indescribable aura emanated from him, enough to make even a heavenly supreme of the initial immortal grade think twice. Fang Jing is about to use his innate divine ability. Those watching the battle from outside the divine transformation pool all focused their attention, their expressions turning solemn. Generally speaking, super divine beasts possess innate divine abilities, which are incredibly powerful. This is one reason why the combat prowess of super divine beasts is often much stronger than most human experts of the same level. "Boy, if you die under my innate divine ability, it won't be a dishonor to you." The golden phoenix rock, in Fang Jing's form, emitted a sharp cry. In the next moment, golden light, like liquid mercury, spread across his wings, and they suddenly slashed down. Innate divine ability, wings of God slaying. As the golden wings descended, it seemed as if a golden light tore apart the very heavens and earth. The seawater in front was violently cut open, leaving an unmeasurable deep scar. This golden light seemed capable of slicing through all things in the world, sharp beyond words. A streak of golden light descended from the heavens, and Muin looked up, his eyes narrowing. Then, in a flash, his hands formed seals. Buzz! From behind him, the immortal golden body erupted with purple gold radiance, and one by one, immortal divine runes materialized, coiling around him like a massive dragon. In just a few moments, the number of immortal divine runes reached an astonishing 700. Given Muin's current strength, his immortal golden body was nearly perfected, and the number of immortal divine runes he could condense had multiplied compared to before. 700 immortal divine runes coiled around him, and with a flick of his finger, they merged at an astonishing speed. The purple gold radiance blazed, and faintly, it seemed to reveal a massive purple gold longsword, surrounded by immortal energy. Muin glanced at the descending streak of golden light, smiling lightly. "You have your god-slaying wings. I have my Phoenix Slayer sword." As soon as his voice fell, the purple gold giant sword shot into the sky. With a single strike, the heavens seemed to dim, and a streak of purple gold light swept through the air, colliding violently with the streak of golden light. Boom! Boom! The seawater within a radius of tens of thousands of feet seemed to be pushed aside, creating a vast vacuum zone. Outside the divine transformation pool, everyone anxiously watched the water mirror, clearly uncertain who would ultimately gain the upper hand after such a fierce confrontation. In the depths of the Emerald Sea, the waters gradually calmed, the light faded, and the enormous golden phoenix rock hovered in the air. However, the crowd's gaze suddenly contracted, for they saw a deep bloodstain on one of its golden wings. The feathers around the wound had shattered into pieces. How was this possible? They gasped in shock. How was this possible? A similar sharp voice echoed from the Emerald Sea, coming from Fang Jing's mouth, filled with disbelief as he stared at the bloodstain on his own wing. If his god-slaying wings hadn't absorbed most of the force of the earlier strike, his wing would have been severed. It's important to note that he was a supreme divine beast, with a body stronger than any ordinary creature. His physical form was comparable to a spirit-grade peerless sacred artifact. No wonder you're a supreme divine beast. Tough skin, tough meat, someone commented. While Fang Jing was still shocked, Muin furrowed his brow. He had thought it would be an easy win, but the strike hadn't even severed Fang Jing's wing. "You, just wait. I will make you pay for injuring my wings." Fang Jing's shock lasted only a moment before he quickly suppressed it. His eyes grew cold as he glared at Muin, shouting fiercely, and then, without hesitation, he flapped his wings and retreated. This skirmish had already made him realize that although Muin was only at the mid-spirit grade, his combat power was far more terrifying than that of a supreme divine beast like him, though he didn't want to admit it. But whether he liked it or not, he knew that if he stayed, he might truly fall to Muin's hands. Muin coldly watched Fang Jing's retreating form. A sneer appeared in his dark eyes. "You want to fight? Fine. You want to leave? It's not that easy. Haha. What are you going to do? I can't beat you, but you can't catch me either." Fang Jing's harsh laughter echoed back, as he was, after all, a divine beast of the avian race. His greatest strength was his speed, and if he wanted to flee, even an immortal grade supreme would only eat his dust. "Is that so?" Muin sneered. Fang Jing's heart jolted, an unsettling feeling creeping in. He flapped his wings in a frenzy, trying to escape immediately. However, just as his massive body soared through the air, he suddenly felt the space around him freeze, and a large shadow descended from the sky. Fang Jing looked up in horror, and before him, a colossal tower came crashing down from the heavens. At the same moment, the world before Fang Jing went completely dark. Boom! The ancient giant tower descended like it sealed off all the space around it. As it fell, Fang Jing, transformed into the golden phoenix rock, was completely enveloped. Muin raised his hand, and the crystal-like floating pagoda trembled slightly before slowly descending into his palm. He intended to activate the eightfold pagoda to completely suppress Fang Jing. Whoosh! But just as he was about to make his move, his gaze suddenly sharpened. The floating pagoda in his hand shook violently, and a flash of bloodlight suddenly shot out from the tower. Huh! Muin let out a soft exclamation. He looked up and saw, from thousands of feet away, the space tearing apart as a golden phoenix rock broke free, none other than Fang Jing. But this time, one of Fang Jing's golden wings was completely shattered, blood flowing like a torrent, staining the surrounding Emerald Sea a deep red. A technique to sever the wings? Muin narrowed his eyes and then chuckled. Fang Jing was indeed ruthless and decisive. In order to avoid being suppressed, he had resorted to such a self-mutilating method. Fang Jing's true form was that of a golden phoenix rock, a supreme divine beast whose speed could tear through space. Sacrificing one of his wings was enough to break most seals. However, this came at a heavy price. Although a heavenly supreme could regenerate their body, the body of a supreme divine beast was the source of its combat power. The flesh contained the essence of countless bloodlines. Burning it would cause severe internal damage. To repair his severed wing, Fang Jing would need at least 100 years of effort. Ah, Muin, I will never forgive you. Fang Jing's voice, filled with anguish, echoed as he fled, his roar tinged with madness, the pain of his severed wing evident in his voice. Clearly, he was also well aware of the cost he had paid. However, in response to his roar, Muin only smiled, then waved his sleeve, causing the crystal floating pagoda in his hand to dissipate. During the peak of Fang Jing's power, Muin could easily suppress it with a flip of his hand. But now, with one wing broken and his strength severely reduced, he was nothing to fear. After putting away the floating pagoda, Muin suddenly lifted his gaze to look upward. His expression was indifferent, clearly sensing some kind of prying presence, most likely the divine beasts outside the divine transformation pool, who were watching the events unfolding within. He didn't pay much attention to it, turning around to quietly stand beside Yoyo, waiting for her to finish absorbing the blood essence. Meanwhile, outside the divine transformation pool, various divine beasts stared in shock at the scene reflected in the water mirror. The entire world was eerily silent. After a long while, they gradually snapped back to reality, clicking their tongues in disbelief, their eyes filled with a mix of fear and solemnity. Who would have thought that Fang Jing, in Muin's hands, was so fragile and easily defeated? He was even forced to flee with one wing broken. This Muin is truly fierce. He's only at the mid-spirit grade, yet his combat strength is terrifying. Not simple, not simple. No wonder he was able to shake the Futu ancient clan to its core. This kid is truly a freak. It seems only someone like Huang Xuanji can subdue him. The entire world was abuzz with discussion. The stories about Muin's actions in the Futu ancient clan had been mere rumors before, but seeing it firsthand today, they finally understood just how terrifying his combat ability was. On the mountain closest to the divine transformation pool, Fang Jing, the Phoenix Queen, watched the water mirror. Her eyes narrowed slightly, and she said faintly, "This kid is indeed worthy of his reputation. No wonder he's the son of Qing Yanjing." Behind her, an elder from the Phoenix clan chuckled and said, "Though he is strong, compared to the young clan leader, he's still lacking in certain aspects." While Fang Jing's strength wasn't weak, if it were facing Huang Xuanji, it probably wouldn't even have the courage to strike. Therefore, Muin's victory over Fang Jing didn't pose a real threat in Huang Xuanji's eyes. That's only natural. Fang Jing smiled proudly. Huang Xuanji's talent was unparalleled in their Phoenix clan's long history, otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to master the 9 Revolutions Saint Ascension art. While Muin was undoubtedly a genius, compared to Huang Xuanji, he was still a bit lacking. Once Muin faced Huang Xuanji, he would understand the difference between them. Deep in the ocean, Yoyo's process of refining and devouring continued for about half a fragrant incense's worth of time before gradually coming to an end. When the final trace of tangible blood energy entered her red lips, a surge of spiritual light surged behind her, causing the black giant egg to become even darker. An ancient aura began to faintly emanate from within, as though something was being nurtured inside. Yoyo opened her eyes, her gaze now even more intense, the purple flame in her eyes growing denser, eventually starting to shift toward black. Whoosh! A blast of energy shot out from her rosy lips. Yoyo could feel the vast, overwhelming power of her bloodline coursing through her, and a delighted expression appeared on her face. Clearly, consuming a blood essence comparable to a spirit-grade Heavenly Supreme had greatly benefited her. Unfortunately, I don't know how much more blood essence it will take to fully evolve my bloodline, Yoyo said with a wry smile. From her perception, reaching that level seemed to require an enormous amount of bloodline power. Don't worry. There's plenty of blood essence in the divine transformation pool. We'll be able to gather enough for you, Muin comforted with a smile. Yoyo nodded, but then suddenly looked around nervously, only to find no sign of Fang Jing. She furrowed her brows and asked in confusion, "Where is that guy?" "He ran away after losing one wing," Muin replied with a laugh. Yoyo's beautiful eyes widened in surprise. Fang Jing was a mid-spirit grade Heavenly Supreme, a highly renowned figure among the Divine Beast clans. She never expected that after just a short while of cultivation, she would have been driven off by Muin so easily, and at the cost of one of his wings, no less. This guy, Muin, had become so strong? You really are a monster. If I don't evolve quickly, I won't even be able to catch up to your shadow, sighed Yoyo. Back in the day, she was the strongest support behind Muin, and he had regarded her as his greatest asset. But now, that once weak boy had grown to the point where even she couldn't touch him anymore. This was quite a blow for the usually competitive Yoyo. I protected you as you grew up, so you should be proud of that, Muin teased. Yoyo rolled her eyes at him. Standing tall, her slender and delicate figure exuded an alluring charm. Her beautiful eyes scanned the surroundings as she asked expectantly, "Where are we going next?" "I've already sensed it. There's no fluctuation of blood spirit beasts nearby." Muin shook his head and then asked, "Where do blood spirit beasts appear more frequently?" Yoyo hesitated for a moment before pointing toward the unfathomable depths of the ocean. "The deeper you go into the divine transformation pool, the more blood spirit beasts there are. But the heavenly prodigies from the super divine beast races are likely deeper down. If we run into them, a fierce battle is inevitable. Usually, their divine beast races would settle in the central region of the divine transformation pool, while the best spots in the deeper areas were taken by the prodigies of the super divine beast races. So, what are we waiting for?" Muin smiled, not a trace of fear in his eyes. "The path to the peak is about competing for every bit of opportunity. If you keep retreating, how can you succeed?" Yoyo froze for a moment, then nodded with a serious expression. She finally understood why Muin could make such rapid progress. It was because he possessed boundless drive, fearlessly overcoming any obstacles in his path, determined to break through them. As for her, after becoming a divine beast, she had started to feel somewhat restrained, which slowed her cultivation progress. "Then let's go and fight for it." It was as if some kind of mental barrier had been broken. Yoyo clenched her jade hand, her face breaking into a smile, which once again carried that rebellious wildness she had when they first met. Seeing this change in Yoyo's demeanor, Muin couldn't help but smile and nodded. His figure moved swiftly, transforming into a streak of light and shooting toward the depths of the divine transformation pool. Yoyo followed closely behind. Yoyo's words were not wrong. The further they ventured into the divine transformation pool, the more blood spirit beasts they encountered. By the time they had ventured deeper, they had come across no less than 10 of them. All of the blood spirit beasts they encountered were eventually consumed by Yoyo after Muin forced them back into their original forms. Behind them, a massive black egg, glowing with spiritual light, began to show faint cracks. Noticing this change, Yoyo grew even more impatient. Her beautiful eyes flashed with a hunger as she looked at the blood spirit beasts. However, as Yoyo had said, the deeper areas of the divine transformation pool were mostly occupied by prodigies of the super divine beast races. So, it was not surprising that they soon encountered one of these prodigies. The prodigy was from the Divine Rock clan, and their power was on par with Fang Jing's. This prodigy was also very well known among the divine beast races. When Yoyo saw this person, she became tense, preparing for confrontation. To her surprise, the Divine Rock prodigy merely glanced at Muin from a distance, hesitated for a moment, and ultimately decided not to confront them. Instead, they quickly retreated. "Looks like they all know what happened to Fang Jing," Muin remarked with a faint smile as he watched the retreating figure of the Divine Rock prodigy. Having seen what happened to Fang Jing, these prodigies of the super divine beast races were no fools. Naturally, they wouldn't approach him easily again. With this reassurance, Yoyo relaxed and continued to follow Muin deeper into the divine transformation pool in search of more blood spirit beasts. In just a short while, the two of them had already gathered an impressive haul. Nearly 20 blood spirit beasts had been devoured by Yoyo, and the cracks on the massive black egg behind her continued to grow. "There's another one!" Yoyo exclaimed excitedly after devouring the last blood spirit beast, her eyes fixed on a large blood spirit beast swimming in the distance. Muin took a distant glance but didn't approach. Instead, he reached out and pulled Yoyo behind him. His pitch-black eyes glinted coldly as he surveyed the surroundings, his voice calm but firm. "Since you're here, why hide in the shadows?" "Heh, the master of Muin truly has exceptional perception," came a soft, teasing laugh. Just as Muin's voice faded, the surrounding space suddenly rippled. 3 figures slowly emerged from the seawater. 9 Nether gazed at the trio, and her delicate face changed drastically. A voice of shock escaped her lips. "The 9-colored peacock clan, Konglinger? The 9-headed golden eagle clan, Linsong? The heavenly dragon crane clan, Xiaotian?" In that moment, even with her deep faith in Muin, she couldn't help but feel a surge of unease. These three were second only to Huang Xuanji in reputation among the divine beast races. Were they planning to join forces against Muin?